Hi everyone. So I'm with Greg, and today we're gonna have an interesting interview. He's gonna tell us about the story of Content Guppy, our link building service. Yeah. So welcome to the show, Greg.
Thanks so much for having me, Robin.
Yeah. So before we get into Content Guppy as your business, can you tell me a bit more? Can you tell us a bit more about your background, what you did before starting Content Guppy, and how you came up with the idea?
Right before starting, so this is like my third business kind of thing. But right before Content Guppy, I was working for a SaaS company called Time Doctor, and we did like time management for remote teams. I was in their marketing department helping out with their SEO, creating content, link building, and all that stuff, and their strategy, things like that, building up that team. Yeah, so that's what I was doing right before. And then back in March of 2021, I was very amicably fired, and I was not sure exactly what to do, and so yeah, Content Guppy became it. If you're actually wondering what amicably fired means, it means like basically I was bored, they knew I was bored, and it was time for me to go. And so yeah, got a nice severance to get fired, and still friends with those guys today. So it was very amicable, but it was time for me to leave. And so yeah, that's how Content Guppy was born. And like that's when Content Guppy started.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so you started Content Guppy like shortly after getting amicably fired, but
Yeah, literally the day my buddy Liam was like, Greg, we're not having you back anymore. Like, this is going to be your last day. So I had like 3 weeks or whatever. It was basically like, Greg, this is going to be your last month. And then I had like then they gave me like a couple months after that. So I had like a little bit of a runway. Like that Friday, it was actually a Friday in February. And that Friday was the day Content Guppy got started. I literally called, I made a spreadsheet of about 50 people that I had connections with who were quote unquote decision makers at companies. And this was like at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. So most people didn't answer the phone, but a couple people did. And then 3 people said yes to my SEO offer, which at the time was create articles and build links.
Okay.
So that's how it got started. Yeah.
On a Friday afternoon.
On a Friday afternoon at 4:30, right? I got fired at 4:15, and then at 4:30, I was started making my list of people who I could call. By 6 o'clock, I had called all 50 people or whatever. And again, I think only 10 people answered the phone because it was a Friday afternoon. And
Yeah, cool.
And 3 said yes.
And how did you come up with that list of 50 people to reach out to?
They were people that I knew. They were just like friends might be too big of a word. I will call them associates, colleagues. You might have been one of the 50 people. I can't remember. Or that I emailed. I was like, yo, could we do SEO for you? So that was kind of like the affiliation. Like, do I have some relationship with you? Like we've exchanged emails, or you've asked me a question before, or we're friends. I do have some friends who run companies or who are CMOs of companies. So I had some friends there, and I made those friends simply just from being in marketing and SEO for 7-8 years at the time. So like that kind of thing. And then just being in the internet community, in internet Facebook groups, and now Slack channels and things like that. So that was it. It was just like a list of people that I had some affiliation with. And like, I literally went through all my emails from like the last like 3 or 4 years. I was like, oh, I emailed this person, we talked before, and I was like, do they need this service?
Yeah. The lead were not totally
yeah.
cold. They had a prior relationship with you.
No, they were not cold. Yeah. Some were much warmer than others, but they were not cold.
Right. How did you frame the message to reach out to them? Was it more like, hey, I have this new idea. Do you have any feedback? Or was it more like, this is my offer. Do you need SEO services right now?
Yeah. So depending on how close I was to the person, like some people I was literally like, yo, I just got fired. I'm launching this business. Do you want to be a customer? And then other people, it was basically like, hey, I have this idea. At the time, Time Doctor was getting 400,000 visitors a month, and we were doing 10 million in revenue. And I was literally like, here's the process that we built at Time Doctor. I want to deploy it across other companies. Would you like to be a client?
Right.
So that's kind of how I framed it. Here's the social proof. Here's what I hate saying here's what I did. It was more like, here's what we did. And I kind of helped with that. But here's the system that we built. We're just going to deploy it across other companies. And yeah, would you like to be a client?
And so at the beginning, you mentioned you offered 2 services, which was content writing and articles and SEO and link building. And now you're on the link building service, right? So how did you decide, okay, I'm going to go for this?
We were very average at both at best. So what happened is we had like an internal process for content. We were actually outsourcing most of our links. Actually, I think we were outsourcing 100% of our links. The content was just okay. And then the links were actually kind of bad. I think we lost like 2 clients over the course of 6 or 7 months because of links were bad. And finally, it kind of got to the point where I was like, we can't be good at both. It's impossible. As much as we would like to be, it's impossible for a very small company. I mean, it was me with an editor who was helping to edit the content. And then I was also just had an outsourced link building team on the side. And it was just like impossible to be good at both. So, what could we be good at? And then we settled on link building because I think creating great content is really hard to outsource. And I don't see it very often. And when I do see it, it's very expensive to do. And so I didn't have a process for, say, taking many pixels and extracting, many requests from you and extracting your knowledge, turning it into content, and then making it really, really good. I didn't have that process at hand, but what we could do was we could build really good links. Our mission now is to become the best link building service around that B2B SaaS companies could get. We only focus on that. And so I was able to build that process. And the other thing is like most link building is just crap. It wasn't very hard to raise the bar. In other words, I mean, we've continued to raise the bar, but at the beginning, it was not very hard to raise the bar from what other people were expecting and from what I was trying to get for my own agency. So that's why we did that.
You mean the quality of the service was bad and the links were bad, or what was specifically bad about the...
So like the content was fine if you didn't really read it. Like it's basically like, if you notice right now in SEO, like all content, if it's not created in-house by a person who is not only a domain expert, but an expert within the company, all content is basically regurgitated over and over and over again from like the same stuff, right? Like there's nothing new. The only people who are doing it really well, who are doing content really well, are companies who have a writer who is both a domain expert. So like they would be an expert in your instance, in building a marketing agency. They've already built a marketing agency, or they've already built a productized service, right? So they're a domain expert in productized service. And then also they are an expert in your product in many requests. Those are the companies that are doing content really, really well. Everybody else is kind of just like regurgitating stuff. So our content was just that regurgitation of stuff. And not only that, it was like we weren't finding clients who were willing to pay a lot of money for it. So like people were paying like $200 an article or $250 an article and then complaining that it was crappy. I was kind of also like, well, you only paid $250. Like, what were you expecting? It wasn't going to be like this Shakespearean work of art. I'll call it average to below average content. Like it was just there. And so it was kind of like, yeah.
And for the people that do not know what link building is it more like putting a guest post on a website with a really high quality guest post with an expert, or is it just inserting a link on a website that would refer it?
Yeah, so you can do with a guest post. We typically do not. We typically do link inserts on really quality sites. So we have a process and we have a QA process now that makes sure that like every link has these protocols or these qualities. So for us, every link has to be on a high rank, a domain rank site, which means like it's not a brand new site, right? Like it's not a brand new, or it's not like
it has some kind of
a flimsy site that's just kind of out there, right? Like somebody's actually working on the site.
Right.
So the second thing is that all of our links are on other SaaS companies or other service companies. So like there's no like link farms or things like that. So we make sure that, and then all of our links, they all have come from sites with a significant number of traffic. And then like within that, we even have like, okay, is the page relevant to the link? So if it's like, if you're, doing a guide on SEO or whatever, we're not going to have the link on like the automotive industry. And then there's like a little blurb about SEO, right? Like, so the page has to be relevant to SEO. And then the anchor text has to be relevant to the page that you are linking to. So there's like an entire process of making sure like the link is good. And so that's what we focus on.
And, that whole process, do you still do it yourself, or did you build a small team over the years? And how does
We built a team, so everything's in-house now. And then we even build software to make sure that everything is automated to the best of our ability. So we have an algorithm now that'll go through, like, we'll have a list of sites. Like, okay, so let's say we're building something for many requests and the keyword is productized service. We'll find a bunch of websites with productized service, through this big CSV of 1,000 sites into our software. Then it'll kind of be like, okay, this is a good site, this is a good site, this is a bad site, this is a bad site, good site, good site. And so like we only reach out to then the good site. So there's no real guesswork into what is a good site and what isn't anymore.
And personally, I get link building requests every single day on my support on Intercom. And mostly I just close the tickets and ignore. I don't know if that's good, or maybe I should reply to them, but it's just too much. It's every day, like really difficult to get like cold email. It doesn't really work anymore. And how do you overcome that?
No, we do cold email. That still works a lot. The problem is that, yes, cold email still works. So not only are we in B2B, and I guess this is for everybody, like for if you're starting a productized service, bitch down, because there's so many advantages. And one of the very clear advantages for us is we are, not only are we B2B, but like we aren't like B2B law firm, right? Like law firms or things like that, which would technically be a B2B link service. We only do B2B like business services. So MarTech, HR, accounting, remote work would be HR, productivity and project management. And like, that's kind of about it. It's like those 5 niches so it's like B2B services. And so now we have like hundreds of relationships within this space. So it makes link building a lot easier. And like, so while we still do a lot of outreach, we also now have like these relationships that we can rely on and things like that we're like, we could get Robin 8 links this month pretty quickly because of these relationships. And so anybody who is in a productized service, niche down, because you're going to have these, it's going to make it easier, whether it's because you are able to identify end users better, or in my space, which happens for me as well, we're able to identify our customers better, but also things like, this is almost like economies of scale in a very, very micro sense, right? Like, because we don't do everything, we have this very built-in advantage just because we only operate in these 5 niches, and we have, over the course of 3 years, we've reached out to tens of thousands of websites. Economies of scale is not really the right word, but it's kind of the best way to describe it.
It's more like the pie is a bit smaller.
So niche down and you will have that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So if like you're doing design, right? And then like, you're only designing for restaurants. Well, at some point in time, you're going to find the best restaurant logo designers and you're going to be able to work with them, right? Not that I know anything about design or restaurant logos, but that's kind of the same thing. And it's sort of, you're going to know exactly who to work with. And then also from the back end, like who to fulfill orders, and then on the front end, who to acquire clients. Yeah.
And I think the goals of the customers, once you niche down, you will know exactly what are the pain points. For example, let's say it's a productivity software to target to, okay, they need to rank for those 5 keywords, 5 features. So this is how I'm going to position my service and how I'm going to close them during the calls. And so that's why it's easier to niche down.
The other thing is like when you go and, we probably already had at least a case study or 2 where we could be like, hey, we've worked in the, so another one of our, like, we've worked in the telephony industry, like this remote communication kind of space, right? We have 3 telephony clients, like, and here's what we help them rank for. And so we could just, here's the links we've gotten them. Here's the keywords that we targeted. And they could be like, oh, we really need this. We're willing to pay a premium, or they're not.
That makes sense. Okay, so a last question before we wrap this up. Like, a lot of productized service and agencies are looking to start content marketing. So what would you say would be the priority at the beginning? What should they focus on, and any kind of mistakes they should avoid?
For agencies who want to do content marketing? Yeah. So make sure you know who your client is first. Don't start it too early, I guess is my thing. It's going to take some time. So do your cold outreach, identify what your client's pain points are, identify who your client is, like who the ideal client is, identify who the buyers are, like within that service. So if we're B2B SaaS, but sometimes our buyers are the director of SEO, right? So like, who are the buyers within that you're selling to? Sorry. And then once you have all that information down, then do content marketing, because content marketing is something where you're going to be like, this is going to take years, 2 years, 3 years. Like, it's not, you can't like in SaaS, for SaaS companies, you can write like, I could get started with content marketing on many pixels and just be like, or many, Yeah, I'm sorry, dude. Many requests. I know Many Pixels was your old company. I guess get started with many requests and be like, here are the data box alternatives. Whatever your things are, like in your thing, here are the Java alternatives. Again, I know it's not the exact thing. And I can start ranking for them quickly. With a productized service, there's not really those quick wins. And so it's going to take you a couple of years to get to those wins. It took us like 2 years before we started seeing real results from an SEO standpoint on our site. So make sure you have a sales process down that is like a cold outreach process, and then start doing or whatever your process is. It doesn't have to be cold outreach, but whatever your process is that you're able to clearly identify who your clients are and then start doing your content marketing. That would be my recommendation.
That's really good advice. And personally for us, the decision maker, it changed over the years. At the beginning, we were targeting founders and owners, but then we realized before we really make the decision to buy our tool, they are not necessarily the founders or the CEOs. So that took us a while, and we had to listen to our users, but also see how they use our tool. So yeah, thanks, Greg. Where can we learn more about you?
Thank you.
Or anything else you want to share? Any big learnings?
Yeah, can I share one mistake that I've been trying to correct over the last like couple of months as a productized service owner? Profitability is awesome. Don't get me wrong. You want to be profitable. You want to sell your product, your service for more than it costs to produce it. Absolutely. The biggest thing though is cash flow. Profitability on paper does not equal money in the bank. And so the biggest mistake that I've made and that I've had to learn is that very thing. And so I know it sounds stupid. Cash flow is way more important than profitability. So make sure you're getting money into your bank account. Any tip? Yeah. 1, charge up front. 2, fire customers who pay slowly. Like, I don't care. Like if there's a customer who's like, who routinely pays 90 days late or 65 days late or whatever, they're gone. Like, just get rid of them. I've kept those people around. You just got to let them go. And then third thing, one of the things that we did is like with link building, like we took on too many jobs and we weren't able to finish everything at once at the month. So like, for instance, if in January we might not have been able to finish, this is an example, we're a little bit better now, but we wouldn't be able to finish our January links until like the 3rd week of February. That's bad. So what we did was we had to scale back to where we could be like, instead of taking on, let's say 300 or 400 links or whatever it is, now we had to scale back to where we were like, we could only do 200 links right now.
Yeah. Otherwise, that's delay thing.
Otherwise, right. You're just going to delay, and your employees still need to get paid every month. And you're not getting paid. So yeah, don't just grow for the sake of growth, grow in accordance with your cash flow.
That's a really good tool.
So yeah, don't outgrow your cash flow. My biggest failure as a productized service owner that I'm trying to correct.
That's great. Where can we learn more about you, or do you have Twitter or any blogs or any kind of things you want to share?
So you could go to contentguppy.com/blog, and you can read all my blog posts about SEO, B2B marketing. The Twitter is @Greg Digneo, and then LinkedIn, if you just search Greg Digneo, I'm the only Greg Digneo. So it's Digneo.
Great.
So,
well, thanks, Greg, for your time today. And
thank you.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Thank you so much.